guys, Bolts96, but the O is a 0, and you are here today for the first of my Euros themed videos as we are officially into Euro season, and we've certainly got the fever on this channel as I'll be putting out Euros related content all tournament long. We'll be looking at some of the best teams, players and finals to have graced this tournament over the years, making the next month's worth of videos a nostalgia trip that you are not going to want to miss a minute of. In today's video, the first of this Euro season, I'm conducting a new deep dive, and this time we are taking it back to a tournament that took place 20 years ago. It's all around the great underdog story in European Championships history, the surprise winners of the 2004 tournament, Greece. That's right, I'm going to be taking a look at the tournament, the team, and just how in the hell they went on to win the whole thing. So if that's something that you'd like to find out, I suggest you buckle up and watch this deep dive of the Greece Euros winning team. Greece, one of the most historic countries in the known world and in a stunning part of Europe within the Balkan Peninsula and situated within the Mediterranean Sea. The country features quite literally thousands of islands within its domain, but only with a population size of 10.32 million. The country has a landmass half the size of the UK, but a population size nearly 7 times less, making it a very lightly populated country. With that in mind, the talent pool of players for their national team is not very big at all. Yet, as with the country itself, the national team has quite a history behind it, but a rather unusual one at that, never falling below rank 66 and hitting a high of rank 8 in the FIFA rankings. The Greek national team have always managed to be in and around the top international talent, but they rarely qualified for international tournaments and had never won a single match at any major event, which leads us on to one tournament in particular, and the tournament in question, the 2004 European Championships, where they were going into the tournament with odds of 150 to 1 to win it. In the 2 decades before 2004, Greece had a pretty rough time of it when considering their time in international competitions. They managed their first appearance in international competition back in the Euros 1980 competition when it was only an 8-team tournament at that time, but after that they failed to qualify for another international tournament again for the next 24 years, other than the one appearance at the 1994 World Cup, a World Cup where they lost every single one of their group stage matches. Not exactly a successful team from that front, eh? So then we arrive in 2004 on the European Championships in Portugal. It was the 12th iteration of the tournament, and at this point now the competition had expanded to a 16-team tournament. This was comprised of Bulgaria, Croatia, Germany, Italy, Latvia, Russia, Spain, Switzerland, Denmark, England, France, Sweden, Czech Republic, Netherlands, tournament host Portugal, and eventual tournament champions Greece. A mixture of classic European powerhouses and teams who will be happy to just be involved. It was a very mixed bag of a tournament, and the surprises weren't limited to Greece winning the whole thing. A certain 18-year-old by the name of Wayne Rooney made his mark on the international stage with 4 goals from 4 games, whilst unknown at the time Milan Baros won the Golden Boot with 5. Giants of the international game, Germany, Spain and Italy, all got knocked out of their group stages, and England and France didn't progress past the quarterfinals. All of the favourites for the tournament were long gone by the time of the semi-finals, which consisted of Czech Republic, Netherlands, Greece and Portugal. What a bizarre set of teams to have been that far in the tournament. You couldn't imagine that sort of outcome nowadays, that's for sure. With the progress of Greece by that point, they must have had a good squad of players to get them there, surely. Well, unless you were around at the time and remember the tournament, there's probably not a single one of these names that you'd know. So let me try and inform you of some, although just as a disclaimer, these are Greek names, and so I'm going to say it now that I am sorry for these pronunciations. First up, and where better than to start with the goalkeeper. Antonis Nicopolidis was the number 1 between the sticks, and with 42 caps at the time, the guy was a veteran for the team and a real leader from the back. Playing for Panathinaikos at the time, he went on to spend the entirety of a 24-year career playing in his national country and accumulated 90 international caps, making him the most capped Greek goalkeeper. Regarded as one of the best goalkeepers to have ever graced the Greek national team, he might not have played for any of the biggest European clubs, but he was certainly a solid option at the back. And talking of the back, you had the absolute man-mountain Trinos Delas. At 6'5" he stood higher than most and was a real destroyer within that defensive setup. Playing for Roma at the time of the tournament, he was one of the few members of the squad playing for what you could legitimately call a big European club. Theodoros Zacharakis in the middle was another veteran for the team and captain of his nation. The guy bleeds bleeds blue and white and has carried that into his post-playing years as a Greek politician, whilst the man with one of the longest surnames known to the footballing world, Stelios Giannakopoulos, was bossing it in the Premier League at the time with Bolton Wanderers and bagging goals on a semi-regular basis for both club and country. Then lastly, let's talk about the goal scorer. Angelos Karistias, a forward for Werder Bremen back in 2004, was vital in their campaign as he managed to bag 3 goals across the competition, the only player to have scored more than 1 in the entire team across all 6 games. These were the top players for this Greece team, a ragtag collection of relative unknowns and not an international star in sight. But for this tournament, they came together to create absolute magic, and that they achieved under one man, Otto Rehhagel. When you look at the German's resume, you can see just how much of a natural winner he was. 2 Bundesliga titles and a European Cup with Werder Bremen, and miraculously winning the Bundesliga again with promoted team Kaiserslautern. He had experience of achieving great things with underdog teams, but he had only ever played and managed in Germany. So when he took the job up with Greece back in 2001, the fans weren't convinced that he would be able to adapt to the country and the style of play. But from his achievements, the Greek football governing body probably had quite a lot of confidence in his chances of getting Greece back into international competition. But I don't think they would have ever expected just how much success he would bring to the country. Using the team's strengths and not over-analysing the matches, he had the team stifle opponents with an old-school man-marking setup which seemed to overcome pretty much anyone they faced. Talking of overcoming, I want to overcome this subscriber count. We have to get these numbers up, and I can only do that with your help. So go on now and click that subscribe button. Starting the tournament off against tournament host Portugal, Greece went out 2-1 winners in what was being named a massive upset. In truth, during the match, Greece made it incredibly hard for Portugal to get a sniff, only scoring a consolation goal in the 93rd minute. The goal scorer, a certain 19-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo. This hard-to-beat setup carried on throughout the entire tournament. In a 1-1 draw with one of the favourites, Spain, after a desperate miss from Raul, set Greece on their way to qualification, and in the last game of the group stages, a goal by the lead striker, Zisis Vraisas, his only goal of the competition, secured their qualification into the quarterfinals, despite losing 2-1 to Russia, the only match they lost all competition. Into the quarterfinals then, and a tie against favourites and defending champions France stood in their way. No one had any hope for Greece in this match. The French starting lineup consisted of Barthez, Gallas, Thuram, Silvestre, Lizarazu, Zidane, Machiavelli, Decourt, Pires, Henry and Trezeguet. All of these players were at the top of their game, with a large number of them being outright world class, and they were coming up against plucky little Greece. This was going to be a demolition for sure. But it didn't turn out that way. France struggled to conjure up any great fight against a formidable unit that just never stopped working, and earned their way into the semi-finals in sensational fashion. The semi-finals then, and it was the Czech Republic who were next in line. And nowadays you wouldn't think too much of them as an opponent, but back then, Czech Republic had a superb team. Petr Cech, Thomas Rosicky, Pavel Nedved, Milan Baros, hell, even one of the goal scorers of the Istanbul Champions League final with Liverpool a year later, Vladimir Smica, started the match on the bench. It was yet another game in which Greece should by all rights have been losing, and it was a close game. Both teams stifling each other out to a 0-0 scoreline come the 90th minute, meaning it had to go to extra time. But extra time was different back then, and there was such a thing as the silver goal rule. If a team scored the only goal in one half of extra time, they automatically won the game, and that is exactly what happened. The big man Dallas leapt up seconds before the end of the first half of extra time to glance home the winner and to send his nation into the final of a European competition. And so, there they arrived. Greece, a team who had only previously qualified for 2 major international competitions, were in the final of a European Championships. And to add to the narrative, their opponent was tournament hosts. And funnily enough, their first opponent of the whole competition, Portugal. The only time a tournament has ever started and ended with the same opponents facing each other, and it ended just as it began, with Greece coming out as winners over the Portuguese side. Another headed goal, this time in the 57th minute, was the only deciding factor, within this match. Despite the efforts of the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo, Deco and Luis Figo, the Greek team could not be overcome. A defensive triumph for the ages, they frustrated the hosts as they held a resilient unit to limit any chances that the stars of the Portugal team could conjure up, and with that the final whistle blew on the biggest underdog story in European Championship history and one of the biggest underdog stories in sport. A tournament that will go down in history. Little plucky Greece with their unknown squad and old school manager defied the odds to become European champions. We've reached the end of this video and the end of this deep dive. I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, please drop a like and comment on the video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to keep getting videos just like this every single week. And you can also find me on X, Instagram, TikTok and Twitch under the handle Bolts96, but please remember that the O is a 0. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.